Gil, thanks for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We met earlier last year. I don't even remember when. It seems like years ago, but it must have been maybe around summertime, maybe
Yeah,
before.
yeah, it was.
And at the time, I think you had maybe a handful of locations, maybe just a couple. How
Yeah,
many?
I think at the time we had like around 4 or 5 when we met.
Okay. And now
Today
you
we
guys
have
have what, like 15?
almost. So we have 13 right now. So three in Chicago, 10 in Denver. We'll be opening a couple more in Colorado Springs in the next couple of months. Another one in Chicago, and then another one in Denver later on. So we have a full pipeline of clinics for this year and next year as well.
Okay.
Wow.
Before we start, I just want to put on the record that every episode so far, it's just so fitting because it's a pet industry newsletter and podcast now. But every episode we record, there's a dog that's barking in the background, and I hope that I
Every
hope that we
time.
every time, and I hope that like we keep recording, and every episode there's a dog barking. That's just kind of like our moniker. So I hope that
Yeah.
I hope we can keep that record going.
Yeah, we
Um,
have lots of them here. So I'm at our office at our HQ,
okay,
and everyone is bringing their dogs. So most of them are
fair enough.
quiet
Of
most of the
course.
time, but sometimes the UPS guy is coming, and then
Oh
there's
yeah.
Oh, the
everyone
enemy.
is running amok here.
Yeah.
So okay, so yeah, five last year, about to hit 15 this year. For those who may not know you and Sploot, can you kind of give us a little bit of background?
Yeah. Um, so I'll talk a little bit about the company. It was founded late 2021. Um, Yoav Mordovich and myself are the co-founders and co-CEOs. We started here in Denver. We're local to Denver. The concept from the get-go was a combination of urgent and primary care. And the way we were seeing it, talking with many pet parents and being pet parents ourselves, we always felt that from a pet parent's point of view, you want to receive, at the end of the day, comprehensive, hassle-free service from your vet. Of course, that is streamlined, more modern, etc. But first and foremost, when you have issues with your pets, you want your own vet to be accessible to you, and be able to address most of your needs. So from the get-go, we said the model we want to build is a combination of primary, urgent care, some emergency, some specialty care as well to really encompass as many services as possible. Um, we are not a 24/7 facility, so I think that's probably one of the only areas we don't touch in the medical sphere. In addition, just addressing kind of like the expectations of modern pet parents, we really want to elevate the experience, and some of it is related to the physical design of the clinics. So very modern, very welcoming, very transparent as well. So the way we design our, even like the exam room, it's always with a glass. So one, it feels a little bit more airy, but two, you can actually look towards the back and see what's going on. Very similar to restaurants like open kitchen
Yeah.
model. And what we wanted to really kind of give here is just like a sense of transparency and make the experience more welcoming, also for the pets themselves. So the moment you come in, the first thing the pet sees is the front desk area, but you have like a treat bar for them, toys, etc. So we wanted to give like a little bit of a fun twist for the pets themselves. We are practicing fear-free, which is extremely important in reducing stress for both cats and dogs. And it's something that we pushed in the past few months. And I
What does
believe
that
we
mean?
are.
Fear free.
So fear-free is a practice that was developed by expert veterinarians, how to actually design the clinics, but also the processes within the clinic, even like the way a vet or a vet tech interacts with the pet to reduce the stress of the pet in the clinic. Some of it are relatively simple things, such as like, okay, you need to separate cats and dogs, which is pretty obvious. But it goes all the way to the tiny details of even like what type of background music you're going to put. And there are certain like types of music that apparently, or genre, that apparently calms, they calm pets down, which is very interesting. But all of that is backed with research, and it's a combination of many small pieces and training. Another example, the vet, for example, will be closer to the ground, will not stand like above the
Mm.
dog because it's more threatening. But there are many small pieces there, and there's a lot of training that coming into it, and also the clinic design needs to adhere to these principles. That's something that was very important for us because we focused a lot again with the design on the parent experience, but also the pet is of course just as important, if not more important. So that was one element that we pushed as well. But beside the clinic, we also invested a lot in technology, as you can imagine, elevating the experience of the parent, making pet care more accessible. So some of it is our model, as I mentioned. So just for example, we're open every day because we need to be accessible and available for the pet parents. We do offer like urgent care and same day availability within our network. That's another manifestation of that. But also, I would say between appointments, pet parents they sometimes they feel that they don't know what the right thing is for their pet. It can be a small question about even like dog food, etc. That they don't necessarily need to visit the clinic, but they can text us. They can use our app in order to do that. Even like simple things such as like I want to get my invoices and medical records for my insurance company. You can do that with a click of a button. So we really try to facilitate everything, the communication with the clinic. We have a teletriage offering. So I had so many cases like that. Again, I'm not a veterinarian, so I get scared almost about everything that is happening to my pet. So one of the things that we wanted to create is a telehealth service that you can text or call, share with us, information, what's happening. Our team will tell you whether you need to be worried about something. And many times it's just like, just monitor it. Don't worry, like you don't need to come. And it gives you this peace of mind. And sometimes we'll tell you like, come to us, or like you need to schedule a same day, or even sometimes we'll refer you to a specialist or an ER if needed, if we think it will require, like, for example, overnight hospitalization, which again, we don't do because we're not a 24/7 facility.
So you have a subscription a telehealth subscription service for your clients, or is this available nationwide? Like I didn't know you had this. I didn't know this was part of the
So
service.
it's available. It's available for our clients. Again, we don't
Yeah.
push it nationally because at the end of the day, we want to be local. It's part of our strategy to be we call like hyper local focus. And if you actually see the way we grew was not like open like 3, 4 locations in many cities around the U.S. We're actually going deeper within the markets that we serve. We believe that one just supports the model itself. So, for example, if I want to provide you specialty care, I can justify within every single clinic. If I want to provide availability, same day availability, and being able to see urgent care cases, I can't really deliver on that promise with a single clinic. It's more difficult. I can definitely deliver on that promise with a network. So maybe I don't have availability in the clinic 5 minutes next to you, but I will have availability in the clinic 10 minutes, 10-minute drive or 15-minute drive from you, which in this case, of course, it shouldn't be an issue. Um, but also the focus here is with the other services as well. We feel that again, for us to serve the community well, we'd rather be focused on that geography. So even the telehealth services, we're focusing now on Colorado and Illinois. And the other thing we just launched, which is pretty interesting, is our membership program. We call it Sploot Pack. So one of the things and the feedback we got from clients, many of them are coming to, as I mentioned, to a wide range of services with us.
Hmm.
So, and many of them are now focusing more and more. More parents are focusing on preventative care. I think there is much more awareness, which is amazing. It's amazing for the well-being of the pets. It's also probably financially is the right path as a pet parent. It's going to save you much more on kind of like acute cases later on. And we did want to facilitate also the financial burden on that. So you pay like a pretty small annual membership fee. And then you get a combination of like free exams with discounts on services and discount on like more major procedures such as like dental. We'll give you like $150 off as part of it. So at the end of the day, you're probably going to get much more than the membership you pay, like significantly more.
Yeah.
But it gives you the peace of mind that, you know, okay, I financially, it's much more affordable to provide for my pet, whether it's preventative care or urgent care or emergency.
I just have one question, and then I'm sure Colin has a bunch of questions too. But as you mentioned, you are not a veterinarian. Your co-founder, as far as I know, is also not a veterinarian. How did you end up opening 15 veterinary locations across Colorado and Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not veterinarians, and that's a fact. We are pet parents, and we have been for most of our lives, which is also a fact. And I think this is where it comes from. We are passionate about pets. We didn't take the veterinary route. Um, but one of the things we saw is just like the pain points that many pet parents feel. Um, and there are many aspects of it, and especially as I would say, the expectations and of pet parents, but also humanization of pets and all these trends that we are well aware of. I think they happen much faster than changes within the industry, which many vet care providers were a little bit more like old fashioned. And we just saw the opportunity. Okay, like we felt there are like several pain points, as I mentioned before, and we wanted to solve them. There is, of course, an advantage and disadvantage of being and not being a veterinarian. I think we definitely brought more of the pet parent experience point of view, and we learned a lot about the medical aspects. Again, were very humble when we entered the space. We talked with hundreds of people from the industry. Some of them are veterinarians. Some of them are just like veterans in the industry and experts. We learned a lot. I think the one thing that we learned early on, even before we launched Sploot, because it did take us like a couple of years to really understand, what we want to do and how we solve it. But the one thing that was surprising to us, and I think it's surprising for many pet parents, is really the issues that veterinary professionals are facing. Um, and some of it could be related to burnout, compassion fatigue, like high stress overall. And it's a combination of many things. Again, we can probably do like a 2-hour podcast of why it's happening. But from our perspective, and I think many pet parents think about being a veterinarian or vet care provider is probably the best profession in the world. You're playing with puppies and kittens all day. The reality is very, very different. And the moment we learned that actually got us more excited because we felt that we can create a unique place for veterinary professionals with amazing culture, much more sustainable experience for them, both in the short term, just like day to day, but also like long term and development and sustainability of the workplace. And so far, I feel we did a good job, not because of giving us like a grade here, but
Yeah.
it's
Little pat
just
on the back.
we just see again, even within the markets we're at, like veterinarians, the feedback we get from our team members, even from people who are hearing about us outside of the Sploot community, we're getting very, very strong feedback, and it's amazing to see. And of course, it energizes us because at the end of the day, the veterinary professionals, they're the backbone of everything we do. So, I talked about great experience for pet parents, great experience for pets, doing like fear-free or practicing it, providing amazing medical care, providing telehealth services, all those things at the end of the day is we're relying on people. And if we don't have amazing people that we hire and retain, that's not going to work. And I think we understood that like super early on, that's probably going to be the most important asset that we have in the company, and that should be the focus of the company 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you? I mean, if I if I go and open a restaurant right now, right? Although I did work in a kitchen when I was like 16, but I don't know how to run a restaurant necessarily. I did the dishes and I don't know, maybe some other errands back in the day, but I would want to hire, someone, a restaurateur, or someone who's been doing this for a couple of decades. They know what they're doing. Is that what you did initially? Because I'm assuming you opened a veterinary clinic, but again, you don't not necessarily know how to run it, what to do, what are the protocols, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to bring in someone from the industry to kind of, give you the blueprint.
Yeah, 100%. So what we, at the end of the day, what we did initially, and it was an ongoing process too. Like and still today, I think everyone in our company, whether it's us or the veterinarians or the veterinary leaders we have in the company, who are leading, of course, like the medical side, or even like the ops people or the marketing people, we keep learning every single day about how to be better. Again, we're never perfect. Well, I don't think we'll ever be perfect. I think it's part of it, especially with the fast evolution that the industry is going through. But we are getting feedback pretty seriously. We are eager to learn and improve, and I think we do that constantly. So going back to kind of like the first days, we brought in a medical director, a veterinarian, more experienced veterinarian, as well as some like associate veterinarians to start the business. This is why we started with a single clinic, and we wanted to make sure that one, we understand like the medical aspect of it, the operations aspect of it, the customer experience aspect, the marketing, etc., before we expand. It took us a while. And also, Yoav and I, what we did, we tried to do every single role that we can. Like, of course, we cannot treat pets, right? So, except I would say from doing like vet-related tasks or nurses-related tasks, we did like almost everything in the clinic, everything we could possibly do. To also understand kind of like how it looks like from the point of view of our employees. Um, we took shifts in the front desk. We cleaned kennels. We did all of that in the first year of the clinic and the company, just to get that sense. Because our view of the world is, if you are not experiencing like these things yourself, you will not be able to understand how to operate this business, and it's an operational business. You can't do that from 30,000 or 100,000 feet view. That's not going to work. So this is how we learned. It was a combination of pace, so we didn't explode from the get-go, but also eagerness to learn and being on the ground and seeing how things are operating. And sometimes, there are many things that you come and you see, you bring like an outside perspective because you view the world very differently um, than, again, people who grew in from the industry because you didn't grow in the industry itself. Sometimes it's good and you come up with great ideas. Sometimes, honestly, you bring an idea and it's not the smartest, to say the least, or it's just not applicable. You don't understand the limitations. But as long as you just have an open conversation and you're open to feedback, and we're very humble, right? When we entered, we didn't say, oh, we are redoing everything for the sake of redoing it. Let's break everything and build from scratch. We understood that probably there are things that are done the way they're done because there's like a good reason. Let's keep them, and some of them we can probably improve. But it's more of an evolution than a revolution.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that makes.
what's interesting about Sploot is, as a whole, is you guys have tackled the one of like the most high touch, if not the most high touch, part of dog ownership or cat ownership, pet ownership in general, and one of the most antiquated, if not the most antiquated. And you kind of circled on a lot of things that I feel like, from a personal perspective, are severely lacking. Because even when I walk into a lot of clinics, because there's a ton around Austin, when I walk into a lot of them, they feel like when I was a kid taking my first or second dog. It's like nothing's changed, including the environment, like the process, all that stuff. And so some of the things I wanted to touch on, and what y'all have approached, and I think are lacking even currently where I'm going, is like one of them is integrating tech, right? And so medical records you mentioned, like if you go, I saw a post on Reddit the other day where someone couldn't get reimbursed. I think this was 4 months ago that this post went live. Someone couldn't get reimbursed for a pet expense through the pet insurance because the medical record was handwritten and they couldn't, it was illegible. And so it was this whole process of like, then I had to eventually go in person, get them to type one up, like all this other stuff. It's such a small piece, but such a large piece at the same time where it's like, it's this static process. It's like, I have to request an email, where if you even think like for humans, this process has taken forever for us to have a portal where you can actually message. And even that's still kind of clunky. But for me, I'm like, this should be very dynamic. Like I checked out, I paid, I get an updated record. Like all my stuff is in one place. If I need to send it, if I'm going to like a doggy daycare or, now dog bars are all the rage and I need the vet records, like everything is super accessible, one touch. And like, I'm curious, what is that process like? Cause I know you mentioned it's a click of a button to get those. Like, how are y'all approaching something like just medical history, and getting those vet records?
Yeah, that's a great point. I have to say that you still see, and it's true for the vet space, but also the human healthcare space. You go to some clinics that you still see the files, like
Yeah.
organized very well, by the way. But they're organized in like above the front desk, and you can see them, and then they take like a physical file. I find it like it's crazy to me that it's still the case. And it's true both for, I would say, from like operational point of view and operational efficiency, but of course from a client perspective. The way we approach it from the get-go, and I would say this, right, when you're building things from scratch, and especially with Yoav and my background, it's easier, right, because you build the infrastructure in a certain way. We also had a pretty clear vision of what it's going to look like. So the way we treated it is, let's make sure that we're building the infrastructure the way we collect data about clients, etc. And it could be like client information, pet information, medical record, in a way that would enable us to just create a flow that is easy for the customer. And then would also help us to just create as much self-serve processes as, again, the clients require, will enable us to quickly understand, like, even when you're calling, who you are, who your pets are, what's the medical history, because then, you don't need to necessarily tell us the entire story over again. The other thing is, how can we provide you with proactive recommendations? Because something that we felt as a pet parent, we don't know, and I assume many pet parents don't even know, like how impactful a dental clinic could be for their pets after like the age of 2, for example, right? And it depends also on the breeds. Some breeds are more susceptible to dental issues, etc. As a pet parent, you don't necessarily know that. And from my perspective, like, you probably need to do that when the pet is very old or older, which is not the case. And I think after vaccine, it's probably the most important thing you can do as part of like preventative care for illnesses that are not related to directly to dental issues, right? It's very interesting. But all of these things, I don't assume pet parents should know. Because again, they're not veterinarians. I think this is, again, an advantage of not being a veterinarian. We understand kind of like how much pet parents, even if they try and they're well informed, there's still like so much they don't know because they didn't go to medical school. And the way we do it is, one, when you join, even when you book an appointment, we'll collect all the information we can. We even ask specific questions about symptoms for the specific appointment. So we'll know, for example, if we need to allocate more time. On our end, we know that certain procedures, for example, require certain skill set from the veterinarian so we can match it with the right provider. Sometimes even there is like a risk, you don't know that, but symptoms indicate that you have a contagious risk. And that's something we need to be well aware of. One, to make sure we are isolating your pet when you come to the clinic, but also protect the other pet. So all these things, by the way, we can map and give you like and understand kind of like the risk of the pet before you're joining. In addition, once we have the medical records, and we're even getting them many times, if it's not a puppy, so we're getting them from another vet, we'll be able to codify that quickly, and then put all the information in our system. That from that moment on, We have all the information we need on your pet to start a treatment. And then, of course, everything you're doing within Sploot, whether it's medications, injections, medical treatment, like um, medical recommendations after the treatment, etc. Everything is being saved and codified within our system. So we have all this data. And then we build pretty sophisticated engines in the background. They will provide you those recommendations and reminders. And some of it could be as simple as vaccine reminder, some that could take into account your breed, the age of your pet, of course, species, etc., and will provide you in the app, for example, recommendation. Oh, it's time for you to think about dental appointments and dental clinics. Or given the fact that you live in Denver, these are the vaccines that we recommend. In Chicago, it could be like a different set of vaccines. Or given the activity of your dog, this is what we recommend you to do. Supplements that we'll recommend, like given the level of activity of the dog. The nice thing about it, you have so much data out there, right? Now, one, if it's not codified, it's not helpful. So the data just sitting there, and if you can actually mine it in a sense and use it, that's not helpful. And two, you need to really build the engines in the background in order to provide like insightful recommendations, and we do that. So I think that was again something we build with time, and it helps also, as you mentioned as an example, just streamline the entire experience. Because if you want your medical records for your insurance provider, like you mentioned, you not only like you should get like a physical copy or handwritten copy, you should probably not, you shouldn't call the clinic and wait on the line for like 10 minutes to get medical records, right? So
Right.
in our case, you just go to the app and you click a button, it's being sent to your email. So all of these things is something that we built. And the way we looked at it is, okay, like how do we streamline the process with booking, like a specific appointment? How do we streamline it even as you prepare for an appointment, after the appointment, because you want to see kind of like the doctor's recommendations? I'm pretty sure most people don't remember everything. But also between appointments, like how can I make sure that I'm providing the best care for my pet as a pet parent? And that's something we do as well.
Yeah, I think you touched on something that I have said that I think is the biggest opportunity, and it takes a player such as yourself or Sploot to kind of really spearhead something like this, which is, I call it like a doggy dashboard for me. I only have dogs. So for me, it's like a dog dashboard where it is ingesting. I've just seen the vet. Here's like the blood work. Here's the recent vaccinations. Here's the diet they're on. Activity level. If you have a wearable, that could also go in. But it's like I have a one login snapshot of everything past and present. And then to your point, the recommendations, which is huge, right? Because it's such an emotional experience, especially if you had a negative one where like I have a pug that we rescued and he had to get 10 teeth removed. And it was like, all I could hear was like, womp, 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 womp. Like I just wasn't taking in all the information. And so to like get all of that afterwards, let the emotions settle, then see like, you know, the options, which, you know, in the dental world, it's very limited, but like, let's just say it was like, he sees inflammation in his joints, and then there's potential medicinal recommendations, right? But there's also like for people who are more holistic or whatever, there are natural foods and supplements that could also be recommended to help and to educate people on what that looks like and give people an array of options to continuously be getting out in front of potential issues and like being able to navigate, get out ahead of, you know, not waiting until you see a lump or something, God forbid, happens, and then you're trying to, you know, retroactively go and fix that. And so I think that's a huge unlock. I think that's a huge path. You know, we're seeing more trackables through collars, other things. I think that technology is only going to get better. So like even integrating that vet visit, all that data, those data points, and making it into things that are actionable is super huge. And I think when you do that, you win a lot of trust and convenience. And like trust is like the name of the game, especially with the vet space, especially a lot of the flack that vet offices are getting now. And like, which leads me to another question that you mentioned on before, which is like nutrition, right? So if you go into the depths of the internet, there's basically a strong divide in my experience. There's wasava and everything else is garbage, and then there's other people who are open to alternatives. And then a lot of people also tout like, oh, vets only do this amount of, nutrition in vet school, or unless they're like a nutritionist and blah blah blah. So I know that's probably the most effective thing you can do day in and day out with your pet, right? Is like what you actually put into their bodies. So I'm curious, what is Sploot's approach to offering nutrition? Like, is it wasava only? Do you are y'all open to raw? Like, how do you go about that? Because I think that is one of the linchpins right now in people going to vets or switching, or just some people not even going at all, just because they feel like it's this conspiracy with Big Kibble or whatever it is. So I'm just curious what y'all's approach is to that.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you. It's probably a sensitive topic in the industry. Um, in the vet care industry, I think human healthcare is the same, right? You keep hearing about specific like nutrition related trends, um, and there is like research supporting it, and there is research that contradicts it, and then after 20 years, you finally realize that one glass a day of red wine is not healthy for you. Like all those things that
There's more misinformation now than ever before. The amount of online grifters and health gurus and just people that'll tell you that everything's about to kill you. Honestly, it's overwhelming because the more you see it, the more you're like, I don't want to eat anything or drink anything ever again. I'm just going to consume air in some glacial area of the world. It's just,
but
it's
even that,
overwhelming.
you're talking about fasting. So even intermittent
Yeah.
fasting was a thing, and then it's not a thing. It keeps
Yeah.
changing.
Ice
I
baths
think
were
it's
good. Now
yeah,
they're bad. It's just, it's all bullshit.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think in general, it's a very complex topic because the research will always be limited, right?
Yeah.
It's hard just to do like isolated control research around it. Um, the other issue with nutrition that's something that our vets are very well aware. There is an emotional element to it. So some people, and it doesn't matter, right? It's not, no one I wouldn't say no one, but many pet parents are not like expert in nutrition. And a lot of it is sometimes related into like core values and point of view and just like emotions and intuition. And it's something that is very hard to argue with, right? So everyone have their point of view, and it's a very emotional topic too. So you want to be careful um, even when you talk about it, and you need to understand where the patient is coming from and what their view is, um, and go around that, right? It's like at the end of the day, if someone is trying to listen, and it could be the case, I'm recommending like supplements, and some person will tell you, listen, I out of scope for me. I only do like natural stuff or like raw stuff for my pet. I will not give them even like supplements. So what you expect the vet to do is not tell the pet parent, hey, you're wrong, and here's the research, and this is why you're wrong. Is to work with them to find a solution, giving that, these are the sets of beliefs, and this is the way the pet parent sees things. How do we optimize, the nutrition of the pet and find alternative solutions? So I think that's the approach we believe in general, because I don't think there is, even you said that, right? Even amongst veterinarians or some pet parents or like nutrition experts within the industry, there are many disagreements. So I don't think there is like a recipe um, for like, okay, this is kind of like the to-go type of food, this is the to-go type of diet. And I think even if you had an answer or more clarity around it, I don't think there is like a cookie cutter solution for a single pet, because the circumstances matter, of course, right? So there are some
Yeah.
pets that, and we see that too, by
Breeds,
the way.
environment.
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes people are very passionate about, let's say, like a specific type of diet, um, or something that is recommended by experts or the vet, etc. The pet is just sensitive to it, so you need to find an alternative. So honestly, it's a case by case basis. So unfortunately, I don't have like this is the way to
No,
go.
that's honestly great because in my experience, like as much as I've loved some of my vets, like it's not approached like that. So if I bring it up, it's like, well, this is kind of how this is the information we have or the data we have, and you know the benefit to a pet's life versus a human's life is that life cycle. While it's very sad that it's much shorter than ours, there's a lot more data that we can get around that. And at the end of the day, it's very subjective. Like if Sparky was limping around and then all of a sudden you were just feeding him raw food, whatever, and like Sparky's not limping and his coat's shiny and like that's what you're seeing and that's what you're feeling and that experience is better, then maybe at the end of the day, like even if there's not the science behind it, then maybe that's an approach, right? So to your point, it's like taking into consideration those beliefs and like what they're seeing at home, I think is something that's really, really missing from the space. It is kind of approached a lot of times black and white, and that's fine if that's like if some people have that science and that data to go off of. I just think now that millennials, who are pretty much the largest pet owners, like it's just a different way of thinking now. So it's like I think you just kind of have to meet them on their level. And so I think that's just it's one of the areas that I see personally, like anecdotally speaking, that there's a lot of trust to be earned from a vet, and just that conversation, not necessarily even having that hard recommendation that we only recommend this, but just being able to converse and answer some of those questions or those qualms that people have
Yeah,
around nutrition.
100%. And I think it touches like many other aspects of vet care or pet care that are above and beyond nutrition. Like even like, and I would say I would expect that from my physician as well, but being non-judgmental in general.
Yeah.
Um, because at the end
Also
of the day,
individualistic. It's like,
Mhm.
and then again, like you said, true for humans and pets. Like one person could potentially thrive on a vegan diet. The other person could potentially thrive on steak and eggs. The other person shouldn't eat, I don't know, hummus. The other person shouldn't eat this other thing. And maybe like raw vegetables are really bad for your gut. It's just like if you put out a blanket statement, this is the exact diet every human on earth should eat, and you're gonna thrive on this diet. That's just false. It's just not gonna work. And I think if it's true for pets, you kind of have to like, oh, maybe my dog loves chicken, but my dog is like, it's not chicken doesn't do her justice. So you kind of have to just look what works for them, keep an eye, and hopefully it all works out. But it's just so individualistic. There's just no one blanket statement for diets, whether it's pets or humans, in my opinion. And I'm not a
Yeah.
professional, but just
No,
based on
yeah.
my experience.
Yeah, 100%. I don't agree with you about the hummus. I think everyone should eat it, but beside
I
that,
knew
I
I threw it in
second
there
that.
intentionally.
I
uh,
second
Well,
that.
not the American
I-
hummus, but
yeah,
yeah, that's a different
Yeah.
story.
fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the interesting thing from our perspective, I think being in this industry for a while now, it's what we see. I think the expectations from veterinarians in that regard, right? Um, tailoring the treatment, being non-judgmental, being open-minded, take the point of view of the pet parent, understand where they're coming from, their fears and concerns, etc. The bar is much higher than human healthcare. Um, I think people when they go to their physician or doctor, etc. Um, they accept things that sometimes they push back on with a veterinarian, and I think it makes the work of a veterinarian much more complex. I think it's more exciting in general because that's the way care, whether it's human health care or pet care, should be. It's with very empathetic, very compassionate, um, and I think step number one in being empathetic is put yourself in the shoes of the pet and the parent. But I think it pushes veterinarians much more maybe than other industries of human care, not necessarily healthcare, which is
Yeah.
to me was very very interesting. So I think the bar in our industry is higher.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I'd be curious, switching gears a little bit. So I love that you mentioned going deep, and like being hyper local with expansion in those markets, and you're clearly doing that in Denver and branching out through Colorado Springs. Why Chicago? Why is that as your first jump out of Colorado?
Um, so we did when we looked at a few markets. We looked at a market where we feel again Sploot is has and we analyze who our clients are. So we know our loyal clients who they are, and I would say it's not like any company. right? In any product, you can be everything for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of like understand, okay, like this is the audience that, we resonate the most with and our model resonates the most with. And we identify these people in a big cluster of them in Chicago, a few other cities as well. Um, it was a combination also from a strategy point of view, just the fact that we want to expand within a city. We need to focus on large cities. So we didn't have lots of options. At the end of the day, you have like it's more than a handful, but um, I would say there are probably 10 cities in terms of size that we looked at, and Chicago was one of the better fits. There was like a short list of three of them. We're looking at other cities to expand to as part of that list. Chicago was first just because it was the largest amongst those cities. Um, we also, and I think that was probably like an added value, but both Yoav and I, we started a professional career in Chicago. We lived there for a few years. We know the city, we know the community. So it also gives us, you have like the rational element of the decision, but also the intuition, the emotional element. And we felt, that all the numbers and the trends that we identified, they just feel right to us because we know the city very well. So that was like
Yeah.
another aspect of it.
Do you have what are so not necessarily city wise, but when you're looking for a specific location, when you're like, ooh, this strip mall or this street or this specific location that we want, I'm interested. What are some things that not that you're not looking like? What are some? Hey, there's no way like this is happening on there. There's no way we can post a location there. And then on the flip, what are some must-haves for you to say like, hey, this is a location we want because you're not. This isn't people just walking off the street and coming into the store. You have to make an appointment. So I guess traffic is maybe not as important, but like, yeah, what are some? There's no way. And then on the flip side, what are some must-haves for you to close a location or want to close
Yeah,
it?
so the interesting piece, and I think that's something that you saw a lot of like V 2.0 of industries. You see that in the pet space, and we're part of that wave. You see that in dental, and you see that in other industries. What was surprising to us is that many people actually took like locations in Maine and Maine, and like A plus locations. That the foot traffic there is great. I don't know of a pet parent who kind of like walk down a clinic and say, "Hey, you know what? Let's get a vaccine today for fun." Just like it's not, it's not like shopping, right? Let me
I
take a
do it
look
all
at
the
that
time.
veterinary clinic.
Uh,
um, so that's something that was a little bit odd to us to begin with. But the way we're looking at it, just in terms of even within a city, so what areas to focus on. Um, we looked at a concentration of the segment we know that our brand will resonate with. And it's a combination of age, pet, like number of pet parents and pets in general, also the type of pets because we are focused on dogs and cats. So we look for that. And then just see the density. Um, our clinics, just because we provide a wide range of services, so we need to make sure that, it resonates with the people that will actually look for these services. Not all people will, look for like a wide range of preventive care for their pets. Some will. So we need to make sure these folks are there. Um, and we look at like I would say specific demographics, but also we built like a model on our end to identify, okay, like who are the clients that at the end of the day um, are visiting more frequently within our clinics, etc. So who are like top clients, and that was an indication to us. Okay, these clients really appreciate what we do, and let's find these concentrations in other cities. That's the way we, for example, when we looked at Chicago, this is what we look for as a city, but also specifically with neighborhoods, this is what we're looking at. Um, and the other challenge I think that we have versus other startups and companies in the space, when you actually go pretty deep within a city, there is a risk of saturation and cannibalization. So you need to be very, very thoughtful in terms of like how many locations you open and where. Um, Sometimes it's science. So you say, okay, like I have enough people in this like area around the clinic, in this radius around the clinic, in this like driving time around the clinic. Um, but sometimes it's a little bit of art because there are some psychological, which is very was very interesting for me to learn. There are psychological barriers within a city. So sometimes, a certain you can be a mile away from a clinic, but no one will go through a certain bridge. Psychologically, it's like a
Mm.
different universe. Um, and they will rather drive like 3 miles somewhere, like 3 miles east than 1 mile west because psychologically there's like an obstacle there, or it's like a different neighborhood or something like that. So we need to look at all those things. It was interesting to learn that.
Yeah, that is interesting. I definitely do that as well. Come to think of it, what you were saying, dogs and cats. What are some? I'm just interested. What are some other animal, or what is the other animal that comes in the most? Is it rabbits, guinea pigs?
So
I
we
don't know,
don't
something else.
see, yeah. So we only see cats and dogs, but
Ferrets. So you don't
no.
you don't
So
accept any other animal?
no, just cats and dogs. And there's again, we thought about it long and hard because other clinics, it's called like exotic, um,
Okay.
and it's honestly it's everything else. There's not cat, dogs, and equine, right? So it's a wide range of animals. So it can be anything from like snakes, lizards, ferrets, rabbits, etc. So some of them are mammals, some of them are not. But we decided not to go through that route because one of the reasons is if we wanted to focus on just like excellence of medicine, like the care itself, etc. We also had to focus on cats and dogs. That's I would say another challenge that
Which is
people
like 99% of the market anyway.
it is a big portion of the market, and it allows us to really focus, right? So that was important for us as well because it's helpful in terms of okay, like when we build everything we just talked about, like the tech stack behind the customer experience, the journey. It's easier when you focus on two types of animals.
That
Yeah, that
makes a
makes
lot of
sense.
sense. What I know we're coming up against the clock. I'm curious. So is it correct that y'all raised 40 million last year, around 40 million?
Yeah.
And
So we raised $40 million from El Carreton,
okay.
which is a growth fund.
And what I would say is that what's the I know there's many ways that those resources will be allocated, but what's like the primary use case of that fund? Is it expansion? Is it going deeper on the tech? Like just kind of walk us through what these I guess the growth plan is, where how you're using that capital to grow.
Yeah, it's a combination of everything, but I think the most important piece for us when we even looked at like specific investors and raising funds, um, it's one to ensure that the whatever partner we're going to have is one a partner that can support us. Two, that they are aligned 100% with our strategy. And our strategy, as we mentioned, for example, is being localized, is really investing in the communities that we serve, is really focusing on quality of care about everything as well, everything else, the experience for the parents, um, versus just like, if you bring on board a partner that suddenly wants you to expand like super fast across the nation, etc. It's just not aligned with what we do. So that was kind of like the first order question for us, and the thing that we clarified. And it was great to see that El Carrington was such a partner. Um, they had that mindset from the get go. I think they appreciate that because they invest in many other high quality brands, and I think they understand the aspect of quality, the aspect of making sure your standards of care, standard of experience are super high, and you never compromise quality over anything else, and that was great to see. Um, and with that, the goal from the get go, and this is the strategy we're executing, is one making sure that we continue to elevate the quality of care, and some of it is related to training of our own vets, right? Or bringing like experts on board, or buying like very sophisticated equipment. For example, one of the things that we invested in, a few months ago is equipment related to laparoscopic surgery, which is human grade type of surgery that you do with like minimal invasion, very fast recovery after that, etc. So we are conducting again. The client can opt in for like a traditional spay and neuter, but you can do that also with laparoscopic surgery, which is much better for the pet. So all those things, again, they require lots of like capital investment,
Mm-hmm.
training, and all those things. The other thing is, as we mentioned before, the most important aspect we have are people. So investing in their training, in the culture, making sure they get everything they need to thrive in their profession. That's something that was important for us. And of course, scaling. But in a sense, when you're thinking about, there are several ways to scale. You can scale and open more locations within a geography, which we did. I don't think we went like extremely fast because we wanted to make sure we're not breaking anything. And we continue to evolve on the quality side, whether it's medicine or customer experience. But you can also expand within a clinic. You can expand your services. That's another type of growth, which we did. We started as primary and urgent, then we added emergency, then we're adding like some specialty care, then adding more services. We're even doing like acupuncture for dogs, etc. All that requires like equipment and training and all those things. So that's the way we grow. We launched, some of it is related to technology. So we launched Sploot RX, which is home delivery. Some of it is prescription medication, that's most of it, but it can be even like over the counter or even like just nutritional or nutrition related products that are being sent to your home. You can ask for a prescription again in the app. It will get approved by our vets, and you can do like auto ship, etc. So you get reminders for refills and all those things. So all of that is kind of like, you can grow, of course, with more and more locations, but we also want to grow with the breadth of service and the quality within a clinic. So this is where the investment has been going to so far and will continue to go towards.
That's
That's
great, man.
go ahead.
I feel like those high touch points is I love that answer. Not that I could sway your opinion either way, but like that's I just feel like that is the lacking piece. It's like there's all these. It's just so fragmented, right? Like even just starting at the crux of it all, which is like, here's my vet, and my dog knows this vet. Oh, now I have an emergency. I got to go to somewhere completely new, completely different set of operations, blah blah blah. Like even starting there and going all the way down to being able to deliver or get a medical record with the click of a button. That's incredible. I think that's a huge, huge, huge opportunity. I love that you're going deep instead of just wide, even though that's a fair amount of locations. So it's
Yeah.
impressive for
And you,
sure.
by the way, you nailed it because even within, so the clinic by design, I think if you go like 10 years ago, it was very fragmented. But you had like the primary care and ER that was mostly like, and some specialty. That's one. I think then you saw evolution of like new startups like doing just urgent care, or some of them are doing like only medication prescription and delivery online, or just telehealth, etc. But you see innovations in pockets, but it's still very fragmented. And you as a pet parent, you don't want to go to a different company or a different provider for every single use case. So one of the things that part of our strategy that we're trying to do is honestly to combine all of them and offer that all under one roof. So that's the way we're seeing it.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
Gosh, I
this
could
was
go for another hour easily. I have so many
I was gonna
questions.
say next year when you have 30 locations, we'll bring you on for part
Yeah,
two, and we could do a recap of
Let's do it.
the year. Yeah, yeah.
It was a
Hopefully
lot
even
of fun.
before.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
Um,
have to
incredible,
say, it felt
Gil.
like 10 minutes. So
Yeah,
yeah, it
so
went by
that
very
that's the
fast.
thing. It's always, and I had a podcast in the past, and it's almost like when you're like stretching before the first 30 minutes is kind of stretching. You're getting into the rhythm of it, and then as you kind of get into that flow state, it's like it's over.
yeah.
So that's why I
Yeah.
think when you go on like these longer, like a Joe Rogan type thing, where it's like 3 hours, it's just because the first 30 minutes to an hour, you're just getting warmed up. You're just getting into the flow of things. So yeah, it goes by quick.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, for sure.
Yeah, we
Awesome.
appreciate your time,
Likewise.
Gil. You guys can find him on LinkedIn. Anywhere else you're active?
Social media in general, like all of us, I think, with so many different platforms. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. I always say that to people, if you are entrepreneurs or people from the industry, you have any question, you want to catch up, yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty responsive, and I just love to meet and chat with people from the industry or other entrepreneurs.